very honored today to be moderating this exciting panel where we're discussing a very important topic in the retail and quite dear to my heart as the CEO of Blooming. People at the heart of retail. Within the next, I think half an hour, we'll be discussing with our esteemed panelists their opinion about how talent is driving the future of retail. Sharif, I would like to start with you, my ex-colleague. We've worked together since more than a decade now. And I wanted to ask you, how do you believe talent has changed from last decade to today?
Basically, the way I see it is, retail is changed over the last 10 years through tech-driven initiatives. So we become very tech over time. Tech basically takes over your routine tasks, which leaves a lot more time for staff members to be focused on the consumer. So we need staff members to change to become brand ambassadors, to become customer-centric and customer-focused. I think that's where we're headed. Tech takes care of the basics of the day-to-day, whereas we focus so much on your KPIs, we focus so much on turnover and sales. I'm not saying it's not important, but what I'm saying is we're missing the customer journey, we're missing the customer authenticity. Speaking to the customer, getting them to come back, I think that's exceptionally important.
Well said. Ankur, with your involvement with training and development, I would ask you about the future. How do you see the talent changing within the next decade?
Thank you, May. Can I just take a step back and first talk about what is the most important thing in retail? In our humble view, it is the shopper. So what we feel is that consumer and shopper are always different. We've heard some very good discussions earlier today as well, where we've talked about different terms: consumer, shopper, customer. We feel that shopper is the most important entity in retail. And when you talk about the shopper, there are 4 key things, which is how do you get new shoppers? How do you augment shopper spend? How do you increase frequency of purchase? And then how do you nurture and grow profits with those shoppers? Now, in the context of that, which we call route to shopper, what has changed are 2 things. We have more choice, but we have scarce resources. When we talk about scarce resources, it is both in terms of time and also in terms of focus. Focus both of shoppers, who on an average, of course, depending upon the category you're dealing with, have maybe 3 seconds or thereabouts to choose something. And also we had, in the previous discussions, Zuhair and Ibrahim were talking about their training, people staying only for 7 months or so. So scarcity in terms of focus of employees as well. So that is what has changed, and that is where I think the focus needs to be going forward.
Ali, as the CEO, you're definitely very busy with the focus on the organization strategy and bottom line. But how do you ensure that within your strategy, you're putting talent as the heart, the objective also, or the focus of your company?
Thank you for the question. And I'm glad really I'm in the people's pillar, because we are very blessed in the retail sector that we offer more jobs than any other sector in the world. And people are the core of our business. And everything starts with people. In our organization, in my company, Al Uthaym Life, we have more than 2,300 people. 95 of them are in the stores. 90% of them are females, and we are blessed with that. So people are an integral part of our business. We have to make sure that we have the right strategy. James Collins said in his best-selling book, first who, then what. It's extremely important to make sure you have the right team. In our business in retail, it's about people. I know the online now does not involve really a great deal of people, but in the brick and mortar, which is until now is around 90% of the business, it's physical. People still go to the stores and talk to people. This is why in our business, it's in the core of our strategy, and we make sure that we have the right tools and measures and elements that will make us succeed in this, because as our colleague said, at the end of the day, we're dealing with customers, and you need to have well-trained, motivated, happy people to deal with them. So it is at the heart of our strategy.
And from your side, with your involvement in learning and development, how do we work with CEOs when they put the strategy to ensure that it embeds also the objectives of talent development?
Thank you for this question. Usually in the beginning of each year, we make sure that we set the goals with each function, and we have one goal, we call it people management. This goal for people management, we focus on each head of function has a target for career development for their teams. They need to create for them development plans and learning activities matching to each competency. Also, they need to do for them monthly check-in to evaluate the progress for their performance and to make sure that they are progressing in their performance. And this is we keep, and after that we keep doing monthly meeting with each function, and we give them the progress, how many from their team have career development plans, how many of their team attend face-to-face classroom training or e-learning activities, what is the progress in their performance, what is their achievement. So they will be aligned and they support us, and we found it having good impact, that the managers keeping doing follow-up and understanding what is the situation for their team, and they keep developing them.
Out of curiosity, have you seen over the last couple of years, like talent is becoming more and more a priority in the boardrooms?
Yes, really. I work in retail since 13 years. Now I found different than the beginning. Now they are focusing more on developing the new joiners. And one of something you can see now in the country, that a lot of companies are building academies or professional training centers to train their staff.
Amazing. Dr. Mohammed, as a founder, how do you ensure that in your company culture, talent is well focused on?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for this great opportunity. And it's wonderful to be among such wonderful, talented executives, and to you as well.
Thank you.
I think that we have to go back beforehand to talk about how do you deal with talent. First of all, I think it's important to hire the right people. So with the enablers in the strategy, it all starts with people. So when you hire the right people, like Steve Jobs says, we hire people to teach us how to function. So now my job as a CEO is to, other than the strategy and making sure there's money in the bank, as Jack Welch mentioned, I'm the Chief Heart Officer. After I hire the right people, I make sure that there's enough governance within the organization in terms of job description, authority matrices, and roles that would play in the long strategy and mission and objectives and goals and vision. And then afterwards, I make sure that I facilitate, which is another function of a CEO, of a Chief Heart Officer, I facilitate communication. So my EQ has to be very high. Emotional intelligence in terms of empathy, compassion, and understanding. So I'm more of a coach and a mentor, but a steward, I should say. I'm not someone who would take someone's hand. I'm not on a tree, but I'm the paved road in which each of my brothers and siblings in this, as Simon Sinek said, in any company would achieve their end goals and objectives, while we all end up with the same vision. But each one has its own way of reaching such a vision within the strategy of marketing, financial, whatever, customer perspective, whatever, financial perspective, according to the strategy that we put in place. Finally, IT. this cannot be standardized or sustainable and scalable unless you have IT in place, in terms of making sure that whatever gains that has been achieved should be not only recorded, but rather, and implemented, but rather recorded so others could achieve these gains. My success hinges on the ability of that the company, if is effective, which is output matches or exceeds the input, and efficient utilization of time and place without my presence. If this happens, then I achieve. So to recap, talent, governance, emotional intelligence, and IT.
Very inspirational, Dr. Mohammed. Also, I would like to ask you, like, while you're coaching those talents, are there new challenges that you are facing?
I stand corrected. I'm also being coached. So I'm learning from them as well, because that's what I said. But of course, there are gains that, because like artificial intelligence, what we're happening here, that we are learning together. And we're not only achieving what we want, but the beauty of it, when we have something in Arabic, it's called baraka. We have this blessing when a team comes and with the same, there's some kind of telepathy. So great things happen, much more than I ever anticipate. The question is that, is each one of the team players the right person to achieve? And that's something I have to work, because I feel I fail when I find that someone is resigning, or someone did not find her place or his place in the company. There is something wrong which I didn't explore enough talent. But if we are all within the same page, and we're all working towards the same goal, and with different ability to create and function with their own capabilities and own imagination, and I give them to empower them to grow, then I would learn as well. And it's a learning knowledge. It's a knowledge-based culture, where that's the infrastructure that we should work in.
Sharif, as retailers, we should always walk the talk. All the missions and values of the company should be transmitted through us to our sales team, to the frontliners. How do you do that?
I believe that, look, Simon Sinek wrote a book called, it starts with why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that's exceptionally important. When you look at your purpose, your mission, your vision, and your values, it's normally on the top, we tend to kind of understand what that means. But how it rolls down to the bottom for the people on the sales floor, it doesn't replicate. So it's exceptionally important, and I completely agree with you. The right people at the right time in the right place. You've got to confront a lot of the brutal facts, and then add tech on top of that. That's always the last factor for me. But how you onboard, how you train, how you develop, consistent check-ins with your staff members on the sales floor, and empowerment as well. But people want to know where they are going. Where do they see themselves in the organization in the future? And I think that's exceptionally important. When you sit down with staff members to do a forward plan, your forward plan needs to include them and what department they see in the future. So I'll give you an example. Us at AK, what we've done is we've got a brand called Rena, and we looked at this brand specifically separate as a model. And what we said was, this needs to be our customer service centric model, because it's a higher priced item. You've got to have that personal experience, one-on-one, where staff members need to understand the product, the feel, the fabric, all of those things. What we then did was, we rolled down the purpose, the vision, the mission, and the values to those people on the floor, made them understand the products, made them understand the categories, the insights of what they were given, so they could make those decisions on the sales floor, commercial decisions. And we actually saw great growth with regards to that. So it's that empowerment that's absolutely key. When you give that, you'll notice your attrition rate goes down as well. Where it was quite high before, it's now lowered because we've given that empowerment.
Amazing example. So Ali, how is the talent strategy a strategic priority for you as a CEO? And if you can give us an example how you are partnering with your HR leaders to ensure that this strategy is implemented.
Okay, I'm just going to give you a hint of or summary of what we've done this year. We had a great acquisition. We're talking about more than 350 stores, around 20 brands. So we are in total now 40 brands and more than 450 stores. This change and this huge upscale in the business required a lot of care and attention to what's happening on the people's pillar. Because again, customers are coming to the store to see the people. People need to be aligned and they know exactly what is happening. And as smooth, frankly, as this transition took place, because we've done a great deal of training before we even got into the people's issue, because we need the people to be safely, unharmedly transition to our company, the same people, without harming them, without harming the company they're exiting from, or without harming our, proceeding of this acquisition. So we did what it takes with the collaboration of Ministry of Labor, with the collaboration of, many legal firms to make sure everybody is getting their fair share. And they were extremely happy with this because we did what it takes to inform them what exactly is going to happen. And frankly, that was one of the most remarkable transitions I've ever heard of in my life or have ever taken place, and especially in the retail sector. People were informed, told exactly what is going to happen, freely giving them the choice to join or not. I think 95% of them joined, and we did the pre, during, and post alignment to make sure that everybody is aligned and they're ready for the next step. This change is huge, and it is definitely would not have happened without the total engagement of the Human Resources Department. And frankly, my advice to everybody in the retail, in every sector, but specifically in the retail sector, for the HR, first of all, the HR department and the leadership needs to be fully aligned on what's gonna happen, what does it take to have the right people in the right place at the right time, especially when you're meeting customers every single day. Two, it is extremely beneficial and helpful to, we have a program to, it's like back to floor, bring people back to floor. The HR departments back to floor or sending them to the floor, staying in the store, standing 8 hours in the store, meeting customers. This was a hell of an experience for them. They came back, they were like, you know what? This business is not as easy as we thought. And from that point, you get the engagement of the HR, and they exactly understand what does it take to have motivated, trained, happy people in the store to meet the customers.
Thank you, Ali, for mentioning the HR department. Of course, if we are talking about talent, we cannot ignore their importance, especially in our industry. And going to you, Ankur, what advice you give actually to the HR leaders in terms of the most important retail skills that they should invest in terms of learning and development in order to ensure that the future of retail is in safe hands, in the hands of its people?
Thanks, May. So I would like to say that there are two things. We have been talking about content, and we talked about Route to Shopper, and everyone in their folders have today received Route to Shopper training programs that are coming and all that. So that is the content. The second most important thing is the intent. You cannot drive content or you cannot drive implementation of any content if the intent is not there. And if I can build on what my fellow panelists have said, Dr. Mohammed, we had heard of TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. I heard about TGIE, new acronym from you, your talent, governance, EQ, and IT. So you talk about EQ, which in a way is about intent as well. Sharif, you talked about, Simon Sinek, why, and he's also written another book, Leaders Eat Last, and sort of, built on that. So that and Ali, you've talked about care and attention as well. Ultimately, if you are not able to drive intent in your organization, whatever content you might deploy, it doesn't matter, because content is available on Google as well. So it is intent which has to be the cornerstone of any strategy to be driven forward.
And Ankur, while I was discussing with you in the lounge, I've heard that you're doing a very exciting collaborations with Images Retail ME, with like collaborating in order to launch a training program for retailers. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, thank you, May. That is my selling moment. So in all of your packs, you might have received, this simple leaflet. So route to shopper is the methodology which I touched on earlier: get new shoppers, augment shopper spend, sort of in a structured way, and its details at the back. So this is launching next year. So we are launching structured programs which will be in e-learning, self-learning, micro-learning, as well as classroom learning formats, which retailers and also consumer goods organizations can take advantage of. So this is in your pack. It's called Route to Shopper Training Programs. Thank you.
And how did you come up with this idea of collaborating? And is it going to be run only online?
So all the formats. So it will be micro-learning, e-learning, online, also classroom. So we have been doing this for 15 years. So we've recently deployed these programs in 65 countries for a big client. So and we work with many other clients. So we've been working with Images Group directly, indirectly for almost 10 years now as well. So it felt right. We have the thinking behind this, and Images have the right route to market. So, it made sense to come together to do this.
Great. Exciting news for next year, for sure, for this collaboration with Images. And what leadership qualities you believe that all the retail team should be equipped with for the future?
For a successful leadership, need to be aligned with the company values. Most of the company values to adapt change, which is now we need it in the country. As you can see, now the retail impacted with the seasons, Riyadh season, Diriyah season, and other seasons in KSA. And as the study of Mukatafa shows us that 56% of the retailers impacted from these seasons, which make a lot of pressure for the leadership to have a customer-centric mindset, to focus on how to empower their team, to train them well, to provide exceptional customer service for the clients, to ensure that they will come back again to their store, and not to go to focus on other activities in the country. Also, they need to empower their team, also to motivate them, or to support them, to have a career growth for them. As you know, the retailers usually, when they join, they keep asking, what is my next step? No, I don't want to be as a sales representative. So they need to show them from the beginning your career growth in this company, how you'll grow with us. If you achieve this, for example, this performance or training or achievement, you will be growing with us.
I totally agree with you. Empowering the team is quite critical for us as leaders to take that into consideration with our talent. And Dr. Mohammed, I think, given that you spoke about coaching, I do believe that talent and employees are usually our primary customer before we go outside. Can you give us some initiatives of how you build brand ambassadors within your team?
Yeah, that's what Malcolm Gladwell says in the Tipping Point, Mavins. I think that the new thing now is not to hire influencers, but get the customers to speak volume of. Yeah. Just want to, can I just add another perspective, if I may, to put things in perspective, if I may. Retail worldwide is suffering, struggling. And e-commerce is on the rise. Yeah. And lots of brick and mortar retailers are. So how could we function as executives and leaders in this macroeconomic issue that we're saying? We can't take this out of context without mentioning what's happening in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia right now is the best country, especially Riyadh. I'm from Jeddah, but I also have more stores in Riyadh than Jeddah. But it's coming. Jeddah is coming also in the queue. There is no other country that is growing, especially Riyadh. There is no city. So for retailers, we have to understand how could we add an element of hospitality and entertainment to our products in the brick and mortar while adding e-commerce in the process. There are 25 cities in Saudi Arabia, where 75% of the economy of the Gulf, 50% of the Arab world. So if you're not in Riyadh, you're not in Saudi Arabia. If you're not in Saudi Arabia, you're not in the Gulf. If you're not in the Gulf, you're not in the Arab world. And you look at the 20 countries, growing countries in the G20, Saudi Arabia is right now probably one of the best. I think India and China fell behind in terms of the growth, or close to Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia is happening. Now, what do we have to do? I just want to go back to what we talked about. Mohammed did mention Simon Sinek. Remember the story of Simon Sinek when he had a cup of coffee in Hyatt Regency, and the smile. So that we have to understand how could we have the salesmen as our ambassadors, not only the customers. What's in it for me? So how could we be partners? How could they speak volume of our strategy, of our mission, of our values? How could we serve them so that they can serve the whole vision of the company? That is a challenge. It's not only EQ, but rather it has to be a financial reward, and it has to also some kind of understanding that, I remember there's a story, a famous story, I don't want to take too much of your time, but I read the story 20, 30 years ago. John F. Kennedy, when he visited NASA, he saw a young, like in early 20s, or probably a teenager, 19, 20 years old. And he shook his hand, and I was very proud of him. So he said, someone whispered, one of the Secret Service said, he's a janitor, sir. So beforehand, he told him, what do you do here? So someone whispered in his ears, he's a janitor, sir. So the young man heard the Secret Service. So he told him, that was in 1960, I think. He told him, I'm here to put a man in the moon, Mr. President. Now the thing is, how could we make each salesman, each saleswoman, be a representative, a maven for the company and values and vision? That is not something we can read in a book. That is something that you feel. That's why artificial intelligence will never be able to replace this soul connection between looking at your eyes and speaking to you right now. They never can clone this, whatever they do. So that is the actual challenge that we have to think. We have to sell our vision, our ideas, so that everyone could be the same person. We could, if we could clone the value, that would be our challenge. And I think it's important to be as much hospitable as possible, and to be able to have this family atmosphere. It's quite a challenge, but I think people are understanding now how to do this, and I think we are in the right track. It takes some time, but I think some brands are doing it much better than others.
I love it because you took us to my next question. I was going to ask each one of the esteemed panelists, what is something that AI would not replace? Like we know we're working with, or even we're raising Generation Z. I know from my son, they're all worried about being replaced, and they're looking for professions where they cannot be replaced. So Dr. Mohammed said the connection, that bond, is irreplaceable, and AI cannot replace it. Sharif, what would you say, one thing that AI cannot replace?
Look, I'm a big fan of AI. Don't get me wrong. AI.
We all are. We cannot not to be.
Absolutely. I think empathy. Empathy is something that you cannot get with AI. That human connection, the authentic approach. You will never be able to get that with AI. So yeah.
Great. The bond, the empathy, the authentic approach. Ankur?
Just give another synonym of that. It's compassion. So it's basically the essence is the same. So bond, empathy, compassion, similar thing.
Yeah, so I think, Ali, we all agree it's more of the empathy, the emotional intelligence. How shall we equip our team? Because as Dr. Mohammed said, it takes time. It's not like, training them on how to upsell and cross-sell. It's more of like something that will take probably years to ensure that they have the skills. How do you believe we can equip our team?
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. We have, and as rightly Dr. Mohammed said, the time now for retail is extremely tough. We have three major waves of change. One is the post-pandemic and the change of behavior. Two, the technology change and the introduction of AI to every step of the business. I was listening to the other speaker the other day. He was talking about Shein now, getting ahead of Zara by producing on orders. So, because Zara was the leader in fast to the market, now Shein is producing. When you're just browsing, the AI takes the data and put it there to produce exactly to what your order, so they don't have excess inventory. So AI, the second pillar or the second wave. Three, the change of what's happening in Saudi Arabia, which is a great positive change of this Vision 2030 and this openness to the world and giving women all this platform to work, and which is great. These three pillars and all the changes that is happening, I think personally this is a great opportunity. I don't want to take so much time. I believe we should embrace those changes, learn, as Dr. Mohammed said, learn from each other. We learn from the young generation. Please ask yourself, do I have the right team? And please look at the younger generation and listen to them. They know stuff. They really know, and they are online all the day. So embrace this change. We've done 7 town halls this year in Al Uthaym Live, and the amount of communication we're having, which is really making us stronger, is what makes us better. Our superpower in the brick and mortar is being physical. So embrace this as well.
Great. So I believe communication is what is needed in order to equip our talents for the future and not to be replaceable by AI. What about you, Hind? What do you think AI cannot replace, and how would you do, or what would you do in terms of learning and development to equip the team?
One of the important things, emotional intelligence, which is, I don't think that AI can support in all cases. And this is what we try to train our team about it. Because, some customers, they need somebody who to talk. They need to talk, to share ideas, what is their need. So not all of the customers want to go to online to shop. Many they want, but not all of them. And we can use technology in other ways, like what we did now in the academy. We have VR solution. The VR solution, we use it to train the staff for different simulation that we cannot train them in reality. For example, if the stores have a traffic, how we can sort, how we can manage the traffic in the stores for some theft cases. So I think technology help us, but not in all way in retail.
And great. I think we are almost, time is out, so I would like just to have a final sentence from each one of you as what inspires you the most about the future of retail and its talent?
I think we're going to have a backlash in a few years. I think people would yearn for a friendly face to speak to. And I think that what is happening right now, you will see it. Soon enough, people will talk to each other. This social connection or social disconnection will not disappear. But people would like to see a smiley face, and they would like to speak to each other. So I think that our job is to stay constant and resolute and make sure that we truly give a wonderful, friendly experience to each one of our customers.
And Sharif, what inspires you the most about managing that talent for the future of retail?
I believe that we need to bridge the gap between brick and mortar, creating an omni-channel environment within our stores, whether it's e-commerce, click and collect, and then also the social aspect, where I think we kind of not spoken about it in detail enough, which is the social media side, and how do we bridge that and create almost influences within our stores. I think that's exceptionally important.
Great. Anchor?
I heard in one of the earlier panels that 60% of population in Saudi is less than 30 years of age. So I think we are dealing with Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So in my view, I think something Dr. Mohammed, you said earlier, if we are able to build relevance for them, relevance drives intent. So if that is something that happens, then there is a lot to look forward to, because you have then talent that will produce for the retail industry, for the country, for the economy as a whole.
Ali?
I would say embrace technology, appreciate it, use it. It's not going to bite you. It's going to help you.
Hind?
I can see the new joiners are thinking about retail different than past 5 years. They want to grow and retail, not like as previous experience that only they think that they want to join the retail for a short period. So I'm proud of the new joiners that are now joining the retail and wish them all the best, inshallah.
Thank you very much. I was very honored to moderate this session, to hear about the talent and the future, and I'm sure with your expertise, they are in safe hands. Thank you very much.